I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. It is Friday. Matt and myself are here. We are going to recap the Thursday Night Football game between the Carolina Panthers and the Houston Texans. I don't know why that jumped out of my head there for a minute, but that is the team that they played last night. And then we will go over the rest of the Week 3 NFL slate. Matt, how you doing on this beautiful Friday?
Doing all right. It's been a busy day, but that game last night existed.
It's a great way of putting it. I spent more time watching the Marshall Appalachian State game than I spent watching that game last night. So that tells you how much I cared about that game.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. I don't think the Texans were as bad as I thought. It was just really kind of dry.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'll say the Texans played better than I thought they would. I thought Carolina was going to be able to run away with that game. If I'm being honest, a little disappointed because I picked up their defense and that they did not do great for me last night. I thought they were going to do better.
Surprising to have 0 turnovers.
Yeah, especially with Davis Mills starting there. Yeah, was not expecting that. But let's before we jump into that, I will say that we are proud to be a part of the Pigskin Podcast Network. Find out what they're saying after week 1 in Green Bay over on Lombardi's Legend podcast over at the Pigskin Podcast Network. Again, you can find all of them. Just search the hashtag TPPN, or you can follow them at PigskinPodNet on Twitter. They retweet everything, post everything there as well. We are proud to be a part of them. Again, NFL, fantasy, college, hockey, baseball, soccer, they've got it all. It's a great network to be a part of. With that being said, Matt, let's jump into the Thursday night game. The Panthers won this one 24-9. The Panthers win, but realistically lose. They do go to 3-0, but they lose not only Christian McCaffrey, but young defensive rookie stud J.C. Horn. What do you make of this offense in the backfield now without CMC? We saw Chuba Hubbard getting a little bit of run, as well as your boy, Royce Freeman.
Yeah, and I think they'll both get a little bit of run. They go to face the Cowboys next week, and then they have 2 home games against the Eagles and the Vikings. So, if McCaffrey can come back in 3 or 4 weeks, they don't have the most brutal schedule, but all those teams can put up points, and I think that's going to be big tests for this defense. As we said last night, a little surprised they weren't even able to turn over this Houston. They stuffed the running game pretty good, but they weren't that great against the passing game, and they are going to face much more robust passing games from Dallas and Minnesota. And even the Eagles have some weapons, and that's probably they're going to feel the loss of J.C. Horn a little bit more there. That might be, given the stretch they're entering, an even bigger loss. I thought Hubbard looked pretty good moving the ball. Freeman is a pretty excellent pass blocker, and he's pretty decent in that kind of hurry-up offense. Those are the things you would worry about with a rookie running back. But Hubbard looked decently explosive. I liked what I saw from DJ Moore. It was nice. They got Felix's boy, Tommy Tremble, going. He had a couple of nice plays. So I still think the Panthers, it's a good start, and I think they'll fare decently well the next couple of weeks, and hopefully they can get McCaffrey back and still be more dynamic.
Yeah, Hubbard, he was very good in college for 2 years. I don't know if that he can necessarily carry the load for Carolina, and I don't know that I'm going to blow all my free agent money on him, especially now with the news that McCaffrey might be back in a couple of weeks. Would you pivot at all to maybe Royce Freeman, knowing nobody is likely going after him, assuming he's going to
Yeah.
get some of the workload?
And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's more. I mean, he's more of a possession kind of a back. The way they were using Hubbard, he seems like he's going to be more of a weapon kind of a back. So Freeman's not a bad pickup. They should probably both be rostered for the time being. Especially, I mean, Chuba Hubbard's probably universally rostered in Dynasty. I don't know about your
Yeah, for
drafts,
sure.
but
Yeah.
he was almost always picked up. So a lot of people have him maybe on a practice squad. But Freeman, a guy that's floating out there, this could be a chance. We saw a Mike Davis come in and put up RB12 numbers, relieving Christian McCaffrey, and I think Royce Freeman is on par with that.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if both of them are somewhat fantasy relevant moving forward for the next couple weeks until McCaffrey comes back. As you just mentioned, Mike Davis, I believe, finished the year as an RB2 last year, and that was, I think it's fair to say. I don't know if I would
actually.
say
I think he was RB. I think
talented.
he finished as RB12.
That's just insane. I don't know that Hubbard or Freeman will be that good in any given week. But again, with them saying McCaffrey's going to be back in, the one thing I would caution as well, if you're a Christian McCaffrey owner, is expecting him to be back in 3 or 4 weeks. We saw them hold him out toward the end of last year, even when he was coming out and saying that he was healthy. So I would limit expectations a little bit. Now, if they're still if they're talking about 3 weeks, so you're 6 weeks into the season, if they're 4-2 or 5-1, they may rush him back a little bit quicker because they'll be likely very much in the playoff race. And I do think that's realistic with this offense. Joe Brady has this team humming. I mean, Sam Darnold looked a little sketchy at times last night. He had a couple fumbles. Was lucky that the Panthers recovered most of them there, so he ended up hurting the team. But with that Houston rush, they started to get to him a little bit. We saw a little bit of the Jet Sam Darnold there, but overall, Darnold has looked like an improved player. I mean, DJ Moore has just been ridiculously good. I think, if anything, his upside goes up a little bit more with McCaffrey being out, so I think he's just going to continue to be heavily targeted. Is Robbie Anderson a fade for you at this point? He really seems to kind of be falling off here in the pecking order.
Yeah, I mean, they threw it 34 times, and I believe he only got 2 targets, only caught 1 for 8. I feel like he's probably moved into that boom bust territory. Terrace Marshall, much more consistent, got 5 targets. They targeted Hubbard 5 times. They used Dan Arnold, the other tight end, got 4 targets. So it does seem like he's fallen down a little bit down the pecking order. If they can hit a deep ball to him, probably makes your day. But that was kind of week 1. People were like, oh, yeah, great start. I think he only caught that 1, but it was for 57 yards and a touchdown, which, gives you a nice 12-point boost. But it does not seem like they're feeding him the way they were last year.
On the Texans side here, Davis Mills was surprisingly okay. Brandon Cooks continues to ball out. What is Brandon Cooks now like? I don't want to say DeAndre Hopkins light, but is he proving that it doesn't matter who's at quarterback, he's going to be a fantasy stud for you?
Yeah, that was my takeaway. He seems quarterback proof in that. He's done well all 3 games. We're probably underrated him a little bit going into the season. I think we underrated him last year. We underrated him again when it looked like they were going to take a dive. Texans line was bad. Davis Mills was getting beat up a lot. They couldn't establish any kind of run, and they did try. I mean, Ingram had a bunch of carries. I love Phillip Lindsay. He got a bunch of carries. He did not get anything done, so they can't run at all. So they weren't blocking well, and they couldn't run. Those are 2 things that are going to be real inhibitions to a rookie quarterback who's trying to get his feet under him. Given all that, I actually thought Davis Mills looked better than I expected.
Well, when your neck is like the size of a giraffe and you get like that bird eye view down on the defense, it makes a little bit of sense how, you can like kind of read what the defenders are doing and everything. I'm sorry. I mean, dude, when that dude came jogging out there, I'm sorry. I was like, hey, look, you guys want to see a real live brontosaurus? Even though I don't think, brontosaurus isn't real, right? Is that the one that doesn't actually exist? I was trying to go a dinosaur reference since I got the Jurassic Park shirt on. There's a dinosaur that doesn't actually exist, and I don't remember. It's besides the point. Davis Mills did definitely look better than I expected him to. I'm not holding my breath on that. I think he can be a solid backup, though. I don't know that he's really a starting NFL quarterback, but I didn't even expect him to go out there and look as good as he did, especially, again, in the limited time that he's had to practice and get ready. So he definitely looked better than I thought. And Brandon Cooks is by far the best player on that team. The only player, in my opinion, starting worth on fantasy. I mentioned on the podcast yesterday that I thought the Texans, that if you could pick the right Texans running back, they might be worth it. 16 touches for 36 yards between the three of them. So even if you started all three of them, they were not fantasy relevant. Like combined, it was a bad day for the Texans run offense.
They're using, at least the first couple of weeks, it seemed like Lindsey and David Johnson were getting opportunities in the passing game. Neither of them got a target yesterday, but Mark freaking Ingram got a target. And then Rex Burkhead comes in and gets a target. So now you're talking about mixing in four people. The other one I think that might be worth watching is Anthony Miller, because we thought it might be a nice trade opportunity there. They're decimated at receiver right now. Nico Collins is on IR. Chris Connolly exists, and Danny Amendola is all banged up. Anthony Miller didn't look too bad.
No, he really didn't. You wonder if how much of that was really Mitch Trubisky and not Anthony Miller that was causing those issues.
Or the Chicago offense in general.
That too. Let's see here.
All right.
You want to tell us about Mr. Bob Harris?
I do indeed. We are heading into week 3. We gave you some of our rankings yesterday, but if you want to get an edge up on your league mates, get the tools that help Bob Harris reach the Fantasy Football Hall of Fame. At footballdiehards.com, get the Flash Update Pro. It's a full suite of tools to make you a better manager. Rankings, configurable cheat sheets, mock drafts, consistency tools, target distribution, snap counts, and more. Use the code ROUNDTABLE for an additional 15% off the already low price of $24. So as soon as this episode's over, or if you're capable of multitasking, hop on there and sign up today.
All right, let's jump in and talk about the rest of the NFL slate for week 3, and we are going to start with the Washington football team at Buffalo, both teams sitting at 1-1. Will we see Antonio Gibson get going for the Washington team here in week 3?
Yeah, we haven't seen running backs have great success against Buffalo. Najee Harris, the Steelers won, but he was kind of really held in check last week. Miami didn't get much of a run game going at all. That would make me a little bit nervous, especially if Washington gets down or needs to move the ball. It seems like J.D. McKissick is the guy they're putting in there in the 2-minute or hurry-up offense. So I still believe Antonio Gibson is talented. But his usage this season has given me a little bit of pause, and I don't suspect this is an incredible matchup.
Yeah, I'm not expecting him to go out there and have a massive game this weekend. We talked a little bit about last week. His workload has been confusing to me, especially with the way they continue to use J.D. McKissick. We really hoped, at least I hoped, and why I had him so ranked him so high earlier in my rankings, that he would get a lot of passing down work, and that just does not seem to be the case right now. Daniel Jones lit this defense up. What can Josh Allen and the Bills passing game do?
Yeah, I'm hoping we get to kind of see the Bills passing game we've expected all season. We saw glimpses of it in week 1 and glimpses of it in week 2, but we didn't get a full picture. But Daniel Jones ran for 95 yards and threw for quite a decent amount. So I'm hoping that we get a little bit more of a bounce back game. It's been a quiet start for Josh Allen.
Yeah, we heard a lot of people saying they thought he might regress a little bit last year he had a phenomenal season, and it's kind of hard to keep up with that pace, right? That it's one of those things where we talked about Mahomes. Even Mahomes really hasn't lived up to like that very first season that he had. Would have been 2 years ago now. That he had with that amazing season. Now, he's still been a top-end quarterback, but he hasn't really, been back up to that. It's hard to live to that really high billing of it. I do expect Allen to go out there and have a decent game here. Washington's defense, I think, has been a little bit overrated. I think all three of us, when we talked about, thought they were going to be really good. they haven't quite been that. Now, I don't know if Allen continues to get the rushing yards, but I do agree. I think they're able to pass a little bit here, get going. We've seen Diggs has had okay games. Dawson Knox, we talked a little bit about on the Monday show, got a touchdown. I actually think he gets another one this week. I think he's going to be able to get against Washington's linebackers here. Overall, though, I am taking the Bills to win this game, as is oh, wait, no, Dennis did not put his picks in here. So.
Oh, yeah. We're going to assume Dennis. You know what? I think this means we get to pick for Dennis.
Dennis is picking a tie between the Washington football team and the Bills.
I'm taking the Bills.
All right, that puts us on to the game that I will be paying very close attention to this weekend. The 1-1 Chicago Bears at the 1-1 Cleveland Browns. Justin Fields gets the start. What are you expecting out of his debut? And do you expect, obviously we don't know what's going to happen, but based on what you expect to happen with Justin Fields this weekend, do you expect Dalton gets the job back?
So I think I said before, once you go to Justin Fields, unless he looks dreadful, I don't know how you go back to Andy Dalton. They're maintaining that Dalton's the starter, and it is Matt Nagy, so I'm not ruling anything out. I think Justin Fields is going to be decent. I had him ranked as QB 24, which in Superflex means I would be comfortable starting him, and I probably will be starting him in a couple places where my Superflex options are probably him, Mac Jones, or Zach Wilson. I think he's going to do better than all three of those. I like his mobility. The Browns defense is decent, but has not been incredible. I know you were more bullish when we talked yesterday. You had him up top 12. Our friend Ricky also had him listed as a start this week. He thinks Fields is about to go off. And if he has a huge showing like that, Dalton definitely not coming back.
Yeah, and I'm torn on this because I don't think the Browns defense, we expect, almost like the Washington we just talked about, we expected this Browns defense to be better, and they just haven't been. The linebacker, I even said coming into the season, as good as we thought this defense could be, was a weak spot. I do think Myles Garrett, and as long as Clowney is fully healthy and ready to go in this game, will be able to get some pressure on Fields because that offensive line for Chicago is not good. But those linebackers, I don't think are going to be able to keep up with Fields' speed. And so I think if they end up going into any kind of man coverages and Fields is able to take off, he's going to be able to get some yards. I think this is going to be a competitive game. I do think Fields wants to go out there and prove that he can be the starter. So I think he's going to run a little bit. I do have him as a top 12 start because of the rushing upside. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him break off like a huge run in his first game like he did with Ohio State against FAU. I think it was like a 67-yard touchdown run. I don't know if he goes 67 yards, but I would not be surprised if he gets a big touchdown run in this game and then throws for a couple touchdowns. I think he didn't look all that great last week, and I don't know how much of that is not getting much practice with the ones and just kind of being thrust out there. Now he's had practice all week. So I'm a little worried just because I do like some of the playmakers on the Browns defense. But I said this to someone the other day. My biggest issue with the Browns defense is I think defensive coordinator Joe Woods just expects their top-tier talent to make plays instead of scheming plays. And I think that defense is not good enough to just expect
you
your
don't
players
have to
to
tell
be out
me.
there.
He was my defensive coordinator for a few years
so,
when Vance Joseph was our head coach.
Yeah, so I think he relies too much on the talent and not necessarily the scheme, which I do think is hurting the Browns' defense a little bit. So I think Fields is going to be able to have a good day. I do want to ask you this before we move on to the Browns side of things. Our brothers in arms, Austin and Colin, did their Canton Bound episode that dropped, I think it was yesterday or this morning. Austin picked Justin Fields to pass for under 200 yards in this game. Would you take the over or the under? Just so you know, a lot of the betting sites set his over-under at 215 yards. So people are not expecting Fields to pass. I will say, granted, you have to put this a little bit into context because they did play the Chiefs in Week 1. They're giving up over 250 yards passing in the first two games of the season. That's including Tyrod, who did have a very good first half until he got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, the Tyrod and Davis Mills combined were about 240 yards because Mills was, I think, 108 and Tyrod Taylor was at 125. So not terrible. I think Chicago's line is probably one of the biggest problems. I also think that Cleveland doesn't want to be in a high-scoring game because their pass weapons are not in the greatest shape and they want to run a lot. And the Bears want to protect Justin Fields and have a pretty good running back of their own in David Montgomery, and are going to try to run a lot. So I actually probably would take the slight under on 200. I know it sounds like I wouldn't, if it was 200 total yards, I'd take the over because I think he'll end up running a little bit, but straight passing, he only had 60 in that half against the Bengals.
It's very close for me because I do agree with you. I think they're going to run with Montgomery. I think they're going to run with Fields. Where I do think they could get, or he could end up getting over, is I think they're going to start hitting the Browns with some play action once they get into the second half after they're able to run a little bit. We saw a lot of that from Mitch Trubisky when Mitch was good, the play action, the rolling out of the pocket. I think Fields is 10 times the player that Mitch Trubisky is. I think if Matt Nagy is smart at all and wants to win this game, that's what he's going to do to attack that Browns defense. And if that happens, I mentioned it on Monday's show, both Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson had 50-yard plus touchdown passes they dropped from Justin Fields in that week. I think both of those guys, I love Denzel Ward. He can only cover one of them. And I think Mooney has got more speed, and I would take, this is coming from a Browns fan, I would take Mooney over Greedy Williams, Greg Newsome, and I think Newsome's going to be an absolute stud. He's played 2 games in the NFL. He's going to need some time. Grant Delpit, I don't think, is fully back yet. Johnson is still, I think, integrating into this defense. I think that they could do it.
So I guess I don't doubt that part. Where I start to have concerns is the brutal weakness for the Bears line is the tackles, which is not great when you have Myles Garrett on one side and Jadeveon Clowney on another. Right. And it's hard. Some of those plays and being able to connect on those plays require a little bit of time. And I know he could roll out, but he may find it's better to roll out and take off than to try to roll the pocket.
So that is going to be one of the things I'm very interested in. I feel bad because we're spending a lot of time on this game.
No, but I mean, some of them will be less time.
That's true. I'll try and wrap this up quickly. I don't know if he'll run because I've mentioned this before. We've talked a lot of college on Devy debate with Felix and Austin, myself. Ryan Day did not like it when Justin Fields ran. So you saw him biding time a lot. The one thing I can say in watching as many Browns games as I have, the quarterbacks that have really hurt them are the guys who can move around in the pocket and avoid the rush. And I think Fields can do that. And I don't want to compare him to Patrick Mahomes, but a Patrick Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson, a Kyler Murray. They didn't always run, and a lot of times what happens, you see it, and I love Myles Garrett because he's so aggressive, but he over pursues, and the quarterback would step up in the pocket and then move out. And when that happens, Garrett's past you and going the other way at that point and allows your quarterback to do something. Fields had a lot of practice with that at Ohio State because Ryan Day did not like him to run. Now, I don't know that he will do that here at the NFL level, right? Because you're a rookie, everything's moving probably a little bit faster. Maybe his reflex is to just take off. But if he is able to kind of calm himself and be like, okay, well, I can push up and then move to the roll out to the right, and I've got Cole Kmet and Allen Robinson running to the sideline, that may be a great way to beat the Browns. I'll just say it right now. I'm picking the Browns to win this game. I would not be surprised if this is like a field goal kick at the end or a Browns, hopefully, defense stop at the end that gets them the win. I do not think this is going to be any kind of blowout.
I mean, especially because we can just quickly cover the Browns side. You know, the question is about their passing game. No Jarvis Landry. I think Baker Mayfield is the classic, has been much better in terms of being an NFL quarterback than being a fantasy quarterback through 2 weeks. I know we were both bullish on his potential this season. I actually, in my sit start that came out today, I have him as a low end QB2. He was my sit. Same for OBJ. I think he's going to take some time to work back in. I don't think we're going to see a high flying passing game. So I think both these teams are going to be a little bit conservative, try to shorten the game. I'm just bummed for you because you actually called Justin Fields starting week 3 and you were supposed to get to be there. And now
I know I have some family stuff going on and I'm not able to make it up there. It sucks. Like I was just telling my friend about that today. I was like, the stars aligned perfectly except for me being there in my guy Kyle McCord getting the start for the Buckeyes, and I was supposed to be at that game Saturday, and then getting a chance to see Justin Fields as I had. I've been saying it since the beginning of the season. I thought he was going to start by week 3. So, but I'm still going to watch him. It's still going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be a great game for Fields. I think
you and I both picked the Browns. So
yeah. The funny thing about Baker, really quick before we move on to the next game, is if you look at like how efficient he's been, though, it's so funny looking at like how good he's been completion wise and everything else, and then you look at like they're like 24th, I think, in passing yards or whatever, like because he doesn't have anybody to throw to.
He's been great. He was 19 of 21 last week, but they don't need him to throw for 300 yards to win right now, and so he's not. And he hasn't had, I think maybe when we get to some of these back and forth, the way the Ravens are playing, the way we've seen the Steelers play, the way they have to play in some of these games, and when he has all his full complement of weapons, I think he'll get back up there. I still believe he finished as a high-end QB2 or right into that QB1, but it's not right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I will add one more thing, and then we will move on to the Baltimore Ravens and the Detroit Lions. I think Odell's going to score a long touchdown this weekend. I don't know if he's going to have a big game. I think they're going to find a way to get him involved.
That would probably screw my ranking, but thanks for that.
I only have him at wide receiver 30, I think. I don't have him high. I just think he's going to get one big play. I see it coming because I think he's healthier than we think he is, and I think they've been holding him out, and the reason he's all of a sudden just ready to go is because Landry got hurt. I think they were wanting to take their time with him a little bit, and now that Landry's out there like, we need you, I think he's going to have a big play this week. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
The Bears' secondary is not the best part of their defense.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. Just get ready. Roll out. 60-yard touchdown to Odell. And if that happens, I am clipping this and just making everybody I know retweet it. The 1-1 Baltimore Ravens at the 0-2 Detroit Lions. Can the Lions do anything to stop Lamar Jackson?
I don't think it's going to be the Lions, but I think the Ravens are going to try to tamp Jackson down. I'm sure you were as amused as I am that he hurt his hip doing that stupid flip, which I was surprised. I thought that was still a penalty. That kind of taunting thing. I mean, good on the NFL that they rolled that back because it was a stupid penalty. But when he first did it, I was like, "Oh shit! Did he just commit a penalty?"
Was it? Do you know who is? I'm probably going to say her last name wrong. I know her first name's Annie. Annie, is it Annie Agar or Agar? Do you know who that is? Mm-hmm. She does a lot of like parody stuff on Twitter. She's become very popular. She does very, very funny videos. She did a video about, it was like an NFL one, talking about all this different stuff, and someone did something, and she called it a penalty for taunting, and maybe this is what happened, I don't know, because it did just come out a couple days ago, so I didn't see Lamar doing the flipping thing, because I didn't watch the end of that game. She had a Baltimore jersey on, and she made a joke about something, and one of the other teams goes, "Isn't that taunting?" She's like, "Wait, that was Lamar? No, we'll allow it." I feel like they do that, so I would not be surprised.
I thought in years past, like if you did an unnecessary like move into the end zone, that would be considered showing up the other team, which is the only way you could really describe that play.
Yeah.
But either way, it's kind of amusing he got hurt. But Detroit's not incredible. I think that the best course of action this week for the Ravens, who have had two very difficult games, is to try to build a lead and then let those running backs run.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen that this defense for the Ravens has kind of been beaten by the pass. So what are you expecting here from the Detroit Lions offense?
I'm hoping for another good game for Quintez Cephas. He seems like he's tracking to be the receiver that we can borderline trust in Detroit. TJ Hawkinson's been great. I would also like to see a little bit more involvement for DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, same here. My shares of Swift would love that. I think Hawkinson is in for a big game, and I do think Cephas is going to be pretty good here as well, but there is no shot that I'm taking the Lions to win this game. I'm picking the Ravens.
Yeah, same.
The 0-2 Colts at the 1-1 Titans. We really don't know what's about to happen at quarterback. Carson Wentz practiced today, so they're saying there's a good shot he plays Sunday. So let's attack it from both sides. If Eason is the starter, what do you expect from the Colts? And then vice versa, if Wentz ends up starting, what are you expecting from the Colts?
Worse than that, apparently on Thursday, Eason and Brett Hundley, who's actually on the practice squad right now, split the first team reps. So even if Carson Wentz can't go, they may pull the plug. I think the Colts are going to have to try to hope for a monster game from Jonathan Taylor in this running game, and that they get quarterback play that doesn't kill them, that doesn't make a crucial turnover. We saw even Carson Wentz have a couple of brutal turnovers. They're 0-2. That's bad. Can't afford to start 0-3, especially losing to the Titans, who would then go 2 games up on you. Even as bad as the AFC South is, you don't want to dig that hole.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think if Wentz starts, they have a better shot at winning this game than Eason or even Huntley. Although, I mean, he's had his moments. He's a game manager, is what I will say of Huntley.
The
and
Titans' defense ain't great.
That is true, but I mean, if he's able to just, distribute the ball, they've got good weapons. I mean, Zach Pascal continues to, at least on this podcast, shut us up because we keep saying there's no way he can do it again, and then he goes out there and catches another touchdown. Pittman had a really good game. We know they have a very good running back in Jonathan Taylor. They just refuse to use him. So I do think Wentz being out there helps that offense more than if, obviously, Eason or Huntley were to start. Can the Colts contain Derrick Henry? I mean, what do we expect from him? A.J. Brown, he's kind of been off to a slow start, which we did not. I did not expect. I thought it would be Julio that was going to be off to a slow start. Julio had 100 yards. I believe it was 100 yards last game. A.J. Brown has kind of been slowly off the mark here.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry looks like he's back into full-on beast mode. So that I think that's going to be a problem. The Colts defense hasn't been great at. They've been super susceptible to the pass, too, so maybe this could be a get-right game for A.J. Brown. I've moderated the expectations back a little bit, but I still have him in wide receiver 2 territory. He just isn't getting his thing has always been incredible efficiency on a limited number of targets, and we didn't get that last week, and we didn't really get that in week 1. So definitely a little bit of a disappointment. It does look like they were making an effort to try to get Julio Jones going. And if Derrick Henry's running like that, I'm giving them the ball too.
Dang it, I keep forgetting to unmute myself. Yes, I agree with you. Henry is, I feel we keep expecting him to have a downfall, and I just don't think it's ever going to happen. I mean, he's so good. I don't think anybody can contain him. The only person that can contain Derrick Henry is the Titans. If they decide not to give him the ball. That's really the only reason.
Well, he was getting involved in the passing game too, which is everyone's nightmare. Because if he's going to catch 6 passes a game,
they listen to this podcast because every time I say he's not going to do something, he goes out there and has just a massive game. So I hope A.J. Brown's able to get it together. I mean, that Colts defense has not been good to start off this season, so this is a good chance for him to kind of get out there and start balling out. I still think at the end of the year, he's going to be up there top 15. We've seen him in the past couple years start off a little bit slow. Now, most of those were due to injury, not necessarily. I don't even want to say poor play, but it was more due to injury than anything else. I think he's going to be fine and turn it around. I think he's going to have an okay game this week. This is a tough one. I think I'm going to take the Titans, which sucks because I didn't expect the Colts to go to 0-3, but
I know. I'm taking the Titans too, and what really sucks is I think we've been in lockstep so far this week, and nothing good happens when that happens.
That is very true. This game is the other game that I cannot wait to watch. The 1-1 Los Angeles Chargers at the 1-1 Kansas City Chiefs. What does the future MVP Justin Herbert and this offense have to do to upset the Chiefs?
They have to keep up. That's what, Cleveland did a pretty good job of trying to keep up, fell a little bit short. You have to keep up and avoid that kind of crucial mistake. So they're going to need Mike Williams and Keenan Allen to keep balling out. They need Austin Eckler to stay in there and keep balling out. And Justin Herbert has to avoid making that crucial mistake that unfortunately bit him in the Dallas game. Throwing that interception in the end zone probably killed their chance of winning that one. Kansas City, we know, has a monster offense. So that's really, they got to keep it going. They got to avoid mistakes.
Yeah, I wouldn't. This is one of the quarterbacks that I think can go throw for throw with Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be which defense can come up with that big stop to limit him to a third down, and can that offense then go out there and respond and put another score up. I think this is going to be a very good game. Chargers defense has been pretty decent to start off the season. They slowed down a very explosive Cowboys offense. I believe they only held them to 20 points, if I'm remembering correctly, which was not what I was expecting from the Cowboys. I think they can do the same thing here against the Chiefs, and they're going to have to. That defense is going to have to make some stops, and Herbert's going to have to go throw for throw with Mahomes. What are you doing right now with the Chiefs running game? We talked a little bit about CEH has been a little bit disappointing to kick off this season. Are you starting him? Is RB2 flex? How are you looking at the running game here for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I have CH in the 30s in my rankings this week. He was my choice for a sit. He had 0 targets last week, only 13 carries, and Darrell Williams got the goal line carry and the touchdown. So he's not a lock to get goal line work. Rushing alone isn't going to get it done, and he has not looked explosive and also had a killer turnover. Unfortunately, you probably spent a lot of capital to get him in drafts 2 years ago or even in redraft this year, and it doesn't look like it's going to pan out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. I've said all along I thought he was an RB2, so I'm not surprised. I'm still starting him.
We'd almost be lucky if he gets to RB2 at this point. He's RB57 through 2 weeks.
That's true. I think most leagues you only lose, I guess, 2 points for a fumble, so he probably would be
but
much
he gave
better.
You 2.6 points in week 2
Yeah.
in a game that his team scored 35 points. That's what's concerning to me.
I still think he's at least a flex option because I don't think he's going to be this bad all year long. There's just no way. He's still a good player. I'm not going to completely bail out on him. Maybe RB2 is a little bit of a stretch at least right now, but he's still a worthy flex spot. You're picking the Chiefs?
I am definitely picking the Chiefs.
Taking the Chargers, baby. If he's going to win an MVP, like I predicted, he's got to win some big games.
In the AFC West, I feel like these teams are so competitive and so good that it's going to be the home teams that win. So I do have the Chargers taking a game from the Chiefs, but not in Arrowhead.
It's going to happen in Arrowhead. I don't care if the Chiefs go then into Los Angeles and beat them, but in Arrowhead, Justin Herbert slays that dragon. I cannot wait. The 1-1 New Orleans Saints at the 1-1 New England Patriots. Can the real Jameis Winston please stand up? Aside from Alvin Kamara, are you comfortable starting any single New Orleans Saint?
No. The Patriots have a decent defense. We saw what they did to Zach Wilson last week, and I know the argument's going to be that Jameis Winston's a veteran, but he's a veteran who's prone to turnovers. Last night, the Carolina
He's just
Panthers
a more grown-up Zach Wilson. That's all he is.
Well, last night, the Carolina Panthers didn't get any turnovers off Davis Mills, but they made Jameis Winston look like a chump. I don't think he's in for a good game. So Kamara, I'm starting, but that's it.
No, I'm right there with you. I said it after week 1. I did not think that Jameis Winston was the real Jameis Winston. It was faux Jameis Wilson. Jameis Winston. There we go.
What surprises me is they haven't mixed in Taysom Hill even when Winston struggled.
Yeah, that is a little bit surprising because they pulled a Hall of Famer off the field to put Taysom Hill on there, and Jameis Winston's not a Hall of Famer.
Maybe those special packages don't work if the main guy that's out there doesn't put the fear into the defense.
That's probably true. We thought Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith would eat in the Patriots offense, but it hasn't quite materialized. Do you think we will see it this week against the Saints?
I do not. Mac Jones has been fine. Another case of a guy who's been a solid NFL quarterback that's not what you're looking for in fantasy. I have him as a high-end QB3. Worse than that, these tight ends are kind of splitting work. Hunter Henry's tight end 27 through 2 games. Jonnu Smith only tight end 23. Personally, if I was going to take a chance on one of them, it's going to be Smith because I feel like he has a better shot at a red zone target. But Hunter Henry was a fade for me this week.
Yeah, it's so... I think I'll just speak for myself. I bought so much into when they used to run the 2 tight end sets with Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski and expected them to do a lot of that here, and it hasn't seemed like that's been the case. So I'm with you. I hope that they do. You paid all that money for these guys. I would think you're going to start using them because it's not like you've got Randy Moss still on
Challenge
the outside.
accepted.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm just saying, like, it's not like they still have Randy Moss on the outside for Mac Jones to throw the ball to. I know it was only a year and a half with the Patriots, but I mean, they realistically have nobody to pass the ball to. James White is probably the best receiving option on that team right now outside of those tight ends. They've got to get these guys involved. On the... Oh, wait, sorry. We already talked about the New Orleans Saints. They're just that bad. There wasn't really much to talk about. Who are you picking to win this game?
I'm taking the Patriots.
I think I am too. I don't believe in Jameis. The 0-2 Falcons versus the 0-2 Giants. So someone is... gotta win this game?
Yeah.
Possibly? Question mark?
Yeah.
Mike Davis has been okay. But could we be in a week for an RB2 performance from him? And do you think Cordero Patterson is flex worthy? They did come out today and say that it will be a 60-40 split between the two. Or expect quotation marks, a 60-40 split.
And, that's what all of us are always seeking to hear, especially when you're setting your fantasy lineups. The one thing I'll say is we've seen running backs have success, and multiple running backs in the backfield have success against the Giants defense in the first 2 weeks. Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams were both running pretty decently, and then Gordon got a huge breakaway run for a touchdown in week 1. Last week, I thought Gibson looked good on the touches that he got, and then McKissick got a couple of breakaway plays. That would make me nervous about Mike Davis because he doesn't – if we were going to pick one of those guys to have a big breakaway play, it probably wouldn't be Davis. However, I think this is the week that we see Mike Davis come closer to the scoring level we were expecting. I have him ranked as a low-end RB2, and I have Cordero Patterson just outside of RB3 range. I think if he gets you a touchdown, he makes your day, but that's no lock.
Yeah, I mean, I said it when Patterson went off last week. I was not buying into him being this new-founded running back for the Falcons here. I think it's going to be Mike Davis, and I expect him to go out there and have a good game. The Giants' defense is not that scary, and as you mentioned, the other teams have found some success against them running the ball. I think Davis is going to have a pretty good game here. Daniel Jones is off to a hot start. He is QB4 through 2 weeks. Is he for real, and do you think, because everybody's been talking about it, is this the week that Barkley finally turns the corner?
So where I'm at in my life is I've watched every single snap of both Giants games this season. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's because Daniel Jones wanted me to stare my bold prediction in the face. He has looked really good against 2 pretty decent defenses. I mean, Washington isn't exactly what we expected, or maybe the Giants are better than we think they are. Denver has a pretty good defense too. Barkley, they've been bringing along slowly. I've been watching the way they're rolling out snap counts. I expect, especially now that he's had 10 days off, and did we mention they're playing Atlanta, which I believe currently sits as a number 32 ranked defense. In case you missed it, there are only 32 NFL teams. Yeah,
is that bad?
Only 32 NFL teams. Daniel Jones, I put him in my top 12 this week. I also put Saquon back in my top 12. I think it's going to be a good game for both.
I had Daniel Jones up, I think, at
14.
14. Okay, so I'm a little bit down on him, but I do remember a specific someone out of the 3.
I mean, that's not really being down on him.
Well, that's true. That's true. I just don't have him as a QB1 where he's been so far this season. Yeah. But I was all in on Daniel Jones. I said this was going to be his year, and so far he is making me look right. I think I had Barkley at 14 too. I don't know that he gets up into the top 12, but I do think he does turn around, have a good game. Again, my biggest fear with Barkley is that offensive line has just not been good. And even the past couple years before he got hurt last year, he was struggling to really get anything going behind that line. His main work came in the receiving game, and I don't know if they'll dump off a lot to him, but I think he's going to be pretty good against the Atlanta Falcons because they're just not good.
He may only get 20 touches is what I was talking about earlier, but 20 touches is all you need. I think he finds the end zone this week.
Oh, I think he finds the end zone twice. I'm all in on the Giants winning this game.
Giants, best 0-2 team in the league.
Sorry, Colin. Sorry. But hey, at least they get the number 1 pick to draft Spencer Rattler. Or Malik Willis next year, probably.
Oh, is he a big Falcons fan?
Colin, yeah, he almost cried on the live draft coverage when they passed on Justin Fields for Kyle Pitts, the Georgia boy, for Kyle Pitts.
Poor Kyle Pitts.
Oh, it's not his fault that they're stupid.
No, I mean, I wish they were using him more.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I was going to say, it's not their fault that they passed on the generational talent, future Hall of Famer Justin Fields.
Based on what we've seen, they maybe should have taken in Penei Sewell or maybe a defensive player.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Colin was all in on them doing any one of those besides Kyle Pitts, but they didn't. They went Kyle Pitts. The 1-1 Cincinnati Bengals at the 1-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. Derek Carr torched this defense last week for 382 yards. What do you expect Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow to do?
I think they're going to have.
They're also out Devin Bush still, and someone else.
Yeah.
I heard today.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh's defense, they have some good players on the front end, but it seemed like their back end has struggled a little bit. Anyone that was watching Carr hit Henry Ruggs on some of those deep shots had to be salivating, knowing that both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are coming in with Joe Burrow. Division games are always tricky. I think it's going to be competitive, but I expect a pretty solid day for all the passing pieces here.
Yeah, I really is. I mean, obviously being a Browns fan and a big fan of the AFC North in general, every once in a while you see some pretty big blowouts, but usually these teams play themselves pretty competitively, at least into the third and fourth quarter, just because of how well they know each other. I think Jamar Chase is in for another big game here. I think he is going to have a good game against the secondary. I think Joe Mixon's going to be pretty good as well. Ben Roethlisberger is dealing with a left pec injury, and Deontay Johnson has been ruled out. Is this a week, or who, I guess, are you going to lean on this week?
I think it's got to be a big Najee Harris game, both as a rusher and a receiver. Juju's probably would be my pick to be the best receiver, and maybe we see a step up for Freiermuth. He got quite a few targets last week, seems to be carving out a role. Claypool still feels to me like a guy you take shots with, and with the way Ben's been going, I don't have great confidence in that.
Yeah, he sent out I can't remember, I don't know if it was in a press conference or tweet or what, he said that people may have to reduce their expectations for what his arm can do right now, because I guess dealing with that injury. And I was like,
way ahead of you.
Get shorter than 3 yards a throw? Like, I don't really know.
Well, that was the thing. We talked about them being a huge high-volume pass offense last year, and they were. But when you looked at all the numbers, no receiver hit 1,000 yards. That's telling.
Yeah, I'm with you on Juju. I think Deontay so far has been the best of the group, but obviously him being out, and in all honesty, the short area really seems to be where Juju thrives for the most part, so I think this is definitely a Juju game. I hope it's a Najee game. I am worried. The one thing, I love Najee coming out of college, but he's not necessarily someone who creates very well on his own, and I'm worried that this offensive line's not going to get a lot of great push here, and they're not going to be able to create lanes. He's going to have to do it in the receiving game, much like he did last week, which I do think is possible. I'm a little concerned that he may not have a big game. I did put him in my top 12 because I'm hoping he gets a lot of receiving work, but I'm a little worried that could end up backfiring here on me. I'm going to take the Bengals. I think, for the most part, they've looked better this year. I know it's at Ketchup Field, but I'm taking the Bengals.
There's a big part of me that wanted to take the Bengals too, but I'm taking the Steelers. I have to be honest. I feel like this is a pick'em game at best.
No, I agree with you. And again, maybe you give they're at Ketchup Field, right? It's at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's at Heinz.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no, it's at Ketchup Field. Ketchup Field, not Heinz. I'm sticking with it. I'm going with the Bengals. The 2-0 Arizona Cardinals at the 0-2 Jacksonville Jaguars. Is Rondale Moore worth an every week start?
Yeah, I mean, 13 targets in 2 weeks. He leads the team. I think he's definitely a flex. I don't know if I think he's a lock for for WR2, but I think he's a flex.
He is a flex right now. I would not be surprised if by midseason he's locked into your lineup as your wide receiver 2 every single week. AJ Green has not shown much of anything. Rondale Moore has been explosive. I think he's going to overtake that role sooner rather than later. I think he's the perfect opposite player of DeAndre Hopkins. What are you doing with the Arizona backfield? You got Connor, Edmonds. I mean, Edmonds has been decent. I don't think he's gotten into the end zone, which may be one of the biggest cruxes in why he has not scored a lot of fantasy points. Connor's been okay. How are you viewing this backfield?
Edmonds is the one that I feel comfortable starting right now because Connor is what we thought he was going to be doing, kind of the first, second down plotter, grinder. And that's not a big enough of a factor in the way Arizona's playing football right now. Now, maybe against a Jacksonville team where they don't have to put on as big of an air show, maybe he ends up getting more run. But I think Edmonds has looked decent when he's run, and he's also getting passing game. He feels like a pretty safe flex for RB2 range.
I'm just going to expand this to the whole Jaguars team. Are you starting anybody on the Jaguars for fantasy?
I actually did slot Marvin Jones into a couple of deep league flex spots. He seems to be the go-to guy right now. As much as I would like it to be Chark, it just they don't seem to have materialized. And the most shocking one is they don't seem to be using Laviska Shenault at all. Not using him in any of the creative way. Who would have thought? I can't remember their old coach right now, but was more creative.
Was it
getting that. Doug Marrone. Yeah.
Okay.
Who would have thought Doug Marrone would be more creative in using it? Because we thought Shenault and Etienne were going to kind of, fight for targets and touches there. And when Etienne goes away, you thought, well, Laviska Chenault's in for it. But he seems to be like the missing man formation out there.
Yeah. I tried to warn you guys that, Urban Meyer and Darrell Bevell was a bad combination. I didn't think Urban Meyer was going to be great to begin with. And then you add in a guy who I believe was calling plays back in the 1950s and still thinks we're in the 1950s. It's not great for football in general. I'm taking the Cardinals. I don't think there's any way the Jags win this game.
I'm also taking the Cardinals. But you know what? Week 3 is here, and we are pumped about that. Week 2 is in the books. Week 3 is here. So it's time to head over to the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off another action-packed week, DraftKings is giving new customers $150 instantly when they bet $1 on any football game. Listen up, because you're not going to want to miss this. Head to the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a bet of $1 on any game to receive $150 in free bets instantly. If the sportsbook is not yet available in your state, DraftKings still has huge cash prizes up for grabs all season long with their daily fantasy contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So what are you waiting for? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code TPPN, that's TPPN, to receive $150 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's promo code TPPN at the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. You must be 21 years or older in New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details.
All right, so let's talk about the 0-2 New York Jets at the 2-0 Denver Broncos. Zach Wilson struggled, and he gets another tough defense on the road. Do you feel comfortable playing him or realistically any New York Jet this week?
I do not. The rushing game hasn't been strong enough to take a chance on that. Denver's defense, even with a couple of injuries, has been really good. Patrick Surtain looked awesome. They have Kyle Fuller. They have two of probably the best safety combination, in my opinion, in the NFL. Vaughn's been good. They've been getting good line push, and the Jets line is beat up. Mekhi Becton's out. I think it's going to be a tough game on the road.
Man, Surtain may be one of those guys. I guess I was kind of wrong on him. I had him at like the third best cornerback in the draft, and he's been phenomenal so far to start off this season. I saw someone on Twitter posting some of the clips of him. Who did they play last week again?
He got an incredible interception against Lawrence last week in Jacksonville.
They showed a clip because, usually, and again, we're going to break off subject here real quick, but there's really not much to talk about with the Jets. So, no, I'll just echo you so that I can continue on my point. No, don't start any of them. They post a clip. Usually, cornerbacks do a good job of staying with wide receivers for like 10 to 20 seconds, and then usually it's hard to keep up with them. Someone posted a clip of him staying with, and I don't know who it was. It may have been Marvin Jones. I'm not sure. For 42 seconds, like never breaking within like half a step of him. That is really
it actually looked like he was on Chark more often.
Was it Chark?
And because like Fuller is the one that got torched on Marvin Jones' touchdown.
Gotcha. See, I didn't see who the wide, because it was like from the bird's eye view, so I couldn't really see who the wide receiver was. But just like watching him stick with the receiver, I was just like, I may have been a tad bit wrong on Surtain. I mean, I had him. I think I'm almost positive I had him as cornerback 3, but he's been phenomenal.
It's tough. It's going to be tough for those quarterbacks. Ronald Darby's on short-term IR right now with hamstring, but you go across their three corners. You have Surtain and Fuller on the outside. Bryce Callahan, who's actually back healthy and who was Denver's best corner last year in the slot. And then you have Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons, who are like roving around. That's how Kareem Jackson got a interception last week, just undercut a receiver who, and they did that to Lawrence. Lawrence, he was really hot on one drive, but then he had trouble even completing passes. I think with the way Wilson has kind of struggled and with the way their lines, it could be a long day for him.
Yeah, I have no doubt about it. I love Justin Simmons. He's one of my favorite defensive players in the game. I think he's extremely good. Teddy Bridgewater, I mean, he has been surprisingly I think it's fair for both of us to say surprising. We both thought Locke would win the job and I thought if the Broncos were going to be 2-0 right now, it was going to be because of Drew Lock. It's because of Teddy Bridgewater, because that's all he's doing is throwing tutties out there. What are your thoughts on Mr. Bridgewater?
Yeah, I think he's a great super flex start. I have him ranked inside my top 15 again. I did expect Denver, no matter who got picked, to start out 3-0. This is a soft part of their schedule. I'm very interested to see if he keeps this going. I think they play the Ravens in week 4. That seems like a tad bit tougher competition than Giants, Jaguars, Jets we had to open up. But the only danger that I see in this game is that the Broncos get up and decide to just milk the clock down with their running backs.
Could be possible. I am taking the Broncos to win this game.
Yes, even my wife picked the Broncos this week, which I thought was a step up for me.
The 1-1 Miami Dolphins at the Las Vegas Raiders, who are sitting at 2-0. We know Jacoby Brissett is in for the Dolphins. Can the Dolphins get the run game going to take some of the pressure off Brissett in this game?
The Raiders didn't look great against the run week 1 against the Ravens, but they actually did a pretty good job with Najee Harris. I mean, he was under 4 yards a carry, not a great offensive line there. The Dolphins don't seem to be committing to the run, and I don't know what to make of it. I'm actually a little bit leery of using Myles Gaskin at this point.
I am with you, and that sucks because I like Myles Gaskin a lot. The one thing I'll say is you're right on Najee. They bottled him up. Bad offensive line for Pittsburgh. Baltimore was able to run on them, but Baltimore's whole offense is built around the run, so I don't want to read too much into that. I think they're obviously somewhere in the middle of that, and I think they're closer to what we saw last week against Pittsburgh and Najee. And I think Najee's a better running back than Gaskin. Granted, the Steelers probably have a not as good offensive line as the Dolphins, but I do think that defense is just going to come out and be like, you know what, Brissett, you beat us, and they're going to not let them run the ball. So I'm with you. I still think you got to flex Gaskin because he can get some PPR points, but I'm not expecting a massive game.
Even in week 1, if you took out the one huge breakaway that Tyson Williams had and you kind of ignore Lamar, who's his own thing, they actually did a pretty good job yards per carry against Williams and Latavius. He just had that one, I think it was 41 yards.
Man, the Raiders out here just shutting us all up. I did not expect them to be this good.
I thought they'd be decent, but they are better than I'm not taking credit. I know you guys have been like, hey, you were on the Raiders. I wasn't on the Raiders.
I mean, you were on the Raiders more than we were. I think I had him to have like the third worst division record in the AFC, so I was not on them at all. Derek Carr has been on fire. He is going for 800. He's gone for over 800 yards in 2 games. But what about the running game? It looks like Jacobs is out. You got Kenyon Drake and Peyton Barber back there again. Are you considering firing either one of them up?
Drake's a deep league flex because he's getting 5 to 7 targets a game and catching some passes, but neither of them is worth anything in terms of the run game. And I don't really see the Raiders getting that running game going. To be honest, Josh Jacobs wasn't able to get a lot behind them either. It's not a great offensive line. They need to figure that out if they want to have a solid second half of the season when the weather starts to turn. But for now, they seem to be better off throwing.
It's insane because you're right. That offensive line, that was my biggest concern with them. It's why I did not pick them to be that good, because I thought Derek Carr was going to be under pressure all the time. They've actually been really good at pass blocking. They just don't seem to be able to establish the run at all. Derek Carr's going to be able to go out there and throw for 400 yards a game. The running game may not matter, so I'm very curious to see how long this holds up.
The best run of the season was the one play Marcus Mariota had before he landed on IR.
Before he got injured. Yeah, I'm very curious to see how long this can hold up. I'm gonna be honest with you. They're so much fun to watch. I kind of hope they sneak into the playoffs. They've been a very fun game. They're a very fun team to watch the past 2 weeks, and I'm taking them to win this game. And I did not expect to say that. I really thought Miami was going to be better at this point in the season, but they're just not. And I'm gonna be honest, even if Tua was out there, I'd still be picking the Raiders right now.
Yeah, I'm taking the Raiders.
The 2-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 2-0 Los Angeles Rams. Antonio Brown is likely out with COVID. How do you think this impacts the passing game, if at all?
Probably clarifies things a little bit with him removed. I think you feel better about Mike Evans. You feel better about Chris Godwin, and Gronkowski's an every week start.
Damn right he is. Got him in like the 15th round of the Scott Fish Bowl, baby. Winning me games. Can't wait.
He looks like 2018 Gronk right now.
He really does. He really does. It's insane. Yeah, I'm with you. I think Godwin, Evans, Gronkowski, I think they're all going to be fine. And mostly I think they're getting a lot of volume in this game because that Rams defense is tough. And, I mean, I don't think that the Buccaneers running backs could run through a wet paper sack, much less Aaron Donald and this defense. So I think it's going to be a very pass-heavy game here for the Buccaneers. I think all of them are going to have good games. Cooper Kupp has been on fire. He's clearly established a good rapport here with Stafford. How do you feel about Woods, though, in this game? As I do think it's going to be a very heavy offensive game into the passing. And then do you have any concern about Henderson with his rib injury?
Yeah, I'll speak to Henderson first. I am a little bit concerned. Jeff Mueller, I don't know if you follow him, posted something that when Cam Akers had a similar rib cartilage injury last year, they held him out for 2 games. That gave me a moment of pause. I have not seen anything where they said he's out, but they haven't said anything where he's in. If he is out, that puts even more pressure, I think, on the passing game because Sony Michel has been okay with what they've asked him to do, but it doesn't seem like he's quite ready to carry a huge load. Robert Woods is clearly the number 2 target. I think you're still starting him. He's still a wide receiver 2 flex territory, but Kupp seems to be far and away the top choice. The bigger question is, are we going to see Higbee get 6 targets or Higbee get a target?
2. He's going to get 2.
Because we both put him top 12.
I know. Yeah, that's exactly why. I hope Woods has a good game here. I mean, he hasn't been bad, as you pointed out, but he hasn't quite been the Robert Woods. You know, we've disrespected him every single year, and now I feel like we've
over-respected him.
Yeah, like we've kind of like, oh, we've given him the respect, and the Rams like, nah, we're bringing him down a notch now. So I'm with you on Henderson, though. I've had broken ribs and bruised ribs. I have never, this might surprise some of you who are listening or watching, I've actually never played in the NFL, but I've just lived like a normal person life, and like anything is difficult when you have just a bruised rib. And when you're talking about having, well, I don't know what exactly the rib injury is.
It was like a rib cartilage injury, so like somewhere between a bruise and a sadness.
And I'm almost positive you can't shoot that up to make it go away either. And he's going
probably
to have
wear a
people,
flak jacket, I think.
Even a flak jacket. I promise you, it hurts. He gets hit, it's gonna hurt. I am not trusting Henderson this week. I'm gonna end up probably being dead wrong. He's gonna get 20 carries for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. But if I can afford to sit him, I am, because this very good Tampa Bay defense. I'm telling you, man, rib injuries are nothing to mess with. You mentioned it with the Cam Akers one. I don't think Henderson's going to have a big game here. That being said, I think I picked the Rams to be the best team in the NFC outside of the Packers. I had them being the number 2 seed. I think they're going to get Tampa Bay in this one. I'm going to take the Rams.
So I just looked to see what the current injury says. They said he's listed as questionable. I haven't seen whether or not he played, but I'm with you. I wasn't expecting a huge running game anyway. I am also taking the Rams.
All right, that moves us on to the 1-1 Seattle Seahawks at the 0-2 Minnesota Vikings. Pete Carroll was, for some reason, critical of Russell Wilson this week. Will that impact how the Seahawks play?
I don't know. We said this last week when Vrabel threw Julio under the bus. It's either going to cause him to have a bad game or cause him to be so pissed off that he wants to like throw every pass to the receiver and have it carry them up his coach's ass. So I'm
Option
hoping,
two.
I'm hoping for the former. It was a weird flex. He basically, after his defense got shredded for 182 yards and 3 touchdowns by Derrick Henry, it was somehow all Russell Wilson's fault. All the dude did was have a decent game and get the team 30 points. It was a weird flex to throw him under the bus for that. So I'll be curious to see how it goes. And I'm hoping we get to see a big play from Metcalf. We've expected it now for a couple of weeks. The Vikings could be the tonic for a receiver looking for a big play.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm just going to continue to say it until it happens. DK Metcalf, he's going to have a good game this week. You know, it can't be Tyler Lockett every week. Really, I'm only saying that as a reverse jinx because I had Tyler Lockett and Scott Fishbowl, and I need him to continue to just, like, rocket ship to the moon. So, you know, might as well just keep saying it and see if we can keep that karma going.
They can both be good.
Carroll thing. That made no sense to me. Yes, it was Russell Wilson's fault that you guys couldn't win in overtime. I'm pretty sure he's the reason you guys got to overtime, but you know, what do I know? I'm just a dude who sits at my house and talks about fake football, so probably nothing. Do you have any concerns about Dalvin Cook's ankle? I believe he did not practice again today, so I'm a little worried about that. I think if they say he's playing, you've got to start him, though. You just have to. He's one of those players, you can't sit him.
We talked about this a little bit when we were talking about the rankings. So he was a non-participant at Friday's practice, but Mike Zimmer said the running back did some work and is listed as questionable on the final injury report. Earlier in the week, Zimmer said ankle injury or not, they were going to continue to play him. So I think that's why we ranked him the way we did. Looks like a pretty decent matchup if you just saw this defense give up 182 yards to Derrick Henry. And then, you know, I think both their starting receivers are in play here. And I actually like KJ Osborne as a deep league flex.
I'm with you. I think Osborne is definitely a flex. That all being said, I mean, I picked Minnesota to have the worst record in the NFC. I'm taking the Seahawks. I think they're going 0-3.
God help me. I'm taking the Vikings.
The 1-1 Packers, Sunday Night Football game, 1-1 Green Bay Packers at the San Francisco 49ers. We're sitting currently at 2-0. Aaron Rodgers has struggled the last couple times they've played San Francisco. Is this the time that he gets them? I actually think both games have been blowouts too, haven't they?
Yeah.
I know the playoff one was for sure.
The playoff one was for sure.
Almost positive the one in the regular season one as well. I'll look it up.
And wasn't that even the game where the 49ers legitimately had no receivers because of COVID and they still won by a decent amount? It's weird because Aaron Rodgers from the Bay Area, so they always talk about it as a homecoming, but he hasn't recently played that well there. I think he will be okay, but I'm a little more cautious. Like last week, I was dead certain we were going to see Aaron Rodgers go ham on Detroit. This one, I'm a little more cautious. I don't think he'll be as bad, hopefully, as week 1. But I don't think he's going to reach the heights of week 2.
Yeah, I said I thought week 1 was kind of a aberration. So last time they played, they won last time they played. Why did I not remember that? 11-5. They beat the San Francisco 49ers 34-17. The previous 2 times before that, in 2020. They lost in the playoff game 37-20, and then in November they lost 37-8, all of which were in San Francisco. So
I forgot about their matchup last year. I think that was the one where the 49ers legitimately had no receivers because of COVID, and they were playing. They were playing Nick Mullins and Jerick McKinnon were all they had. Richie James, Ross Dwelly,
Robert Craycraft, the use Kyle Juszczyk, Jordan Reed. So, that's right. Yeah,
I forgot that was the game that some wondered whether San Francisco should be made to play. So we did forget a little bit about that one, but I think it was the year prior. I was thinking about Rodgers came in and got clocked. Yeah. This is more like the 49ers teams of that Super Bowl year than the 49ers of last year.
I agree. I still think this is going to be a close game. I'm not as worried about the secondary the 49ers have right now. And they just had another
Yeah.
injury. I can't remember who it was a couple weeks ago. In week one, they lost somebody
Verrett,
for
Jason
yeah
Verrett.
to a season-ending injury, I
Yep.
believe. So I do think this is going to be a better game. I know I said it after week one. We see this every year from the Packers. They just have that game that you're just like, what the hell just happened? I think they got it out of the way in week one. They're going to be good moving forward. I expect them to have a good game here. I don't know that I'm with you. I don't know they have quite the game that they had in week two. I would temper expectations for Aaron Jones a little bit, but I think Adams can still have a good game here. And I think MVS is a sneaky play. We talked a lot about it. He's been getting a lot of targets and just missing. I think he can connect on a big play this week. For the 49ers side here, Elijah Mitchell looks like he's likely not going to play, but Trey Sermon has been cleared and looks like he's going to be the starter. Are you firing him up in your lineups this week?
Yeah, I think he's worth a flex. Mitchell came back to practice, but I guess he got downgraded to doubtful. Behind that is Trenton Cannon. Can I interest you in Trenton Cannon? No, I didn't think so. So I'm going to say Sermon's at least got flex value.
Give me the Sermon, baby. I'm all in. It's going to be a great game from Trey Sermon. I am taking the Packers, though. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to drive down the field, last-minute game-winning touchdown to Devontae Adams.
I'm taking the 49ers.
Monday Night Football, the 1-1 Philadelphia Eagles at the 1-1 Dallas Cowboys. Hurts has been solid, but what do you make of the Eagles receivers? Is there any that you trust week to week?
I think Devontae Smith is probably feels like the best one. He and Rager have both had their moments. What I am interested in is we think Justin Herbert is a darn good quarterback, probably a little bit better of a quarterback than Jalen Hurts. And the Cowboys were able to hold him in check and actually force a couple of turnovers. They're going to be at home. I know Dak has already talked about how emotional it's going to be back in the Big D, where he hasn't been since his injury, how excited he was to get to play for the hometown fans. I think there's a chance that this is a tough game for Philly.
Interesting. The one thing I will say with the difference so far is while Herbert has rushing upside, he is not the athlete that Hurts is, which I think could help him against this Dallas defense. I'm with you. Smith is the one that I'm starting every week. I know he had a bad week too. I don't expect him to only get, at 2 points, I think is what he got last week. I think Smith's going to be fine moving forward. Dallas Goddard, I'm starting as well. I think that the Cowboys are a little bit weaker on the outside.
In the middle.
Though. You think in the middle? I like their linebackers. I don't know. I think
their linebackers are very good against the run and good pass rushers. Micah Parsons looked like a beast coming off the end. Don't know about. They do have I think it's KZ, who was a safety in Atlanta, who's kind of playing middle linebacker as their coverage guy. It's not terrible.
Gotcha.
But I actually think their corners are a little stronger. They're stronger on the corner than they are straight up the spine.
Well, I think obviously Dallas Goddard is a good play. I think Jalen Reagor could have a big game this week. I'm kind of in on Reagor having a good game, but I think this is going to be a much better game. I think it's going to be one of those classic Monday Night Football games between them where it comes down to the wire, and we'll see who ends up pulling off the big upset, or not upset, but off the big play that ends up winning them the game. Zeke was solid in week 2, but still plenty of touches for Tony Pollard. Could this be the week that we see the Zeke of old?
Yeah, actually, I'm an RB9 or 8. I can't remember, somewhere in that range this week. I think they are going to feed and feature him a little bit more. I'm sure they've heard the rumblings that he's the half washed, and I think that it's been strategy more than Ezekiel Elliott being a demonstrably lesser player. That has to do with the way they played. The week 1 certainly looked like they decided their best offense against that Tampa Bay front was to do a lot of quick passing, and that worked really well for them. Week 2, I think he ran fine the place that he was in. I think we've talked about too, they're probably trying to save him, keep him strong going through the full season. I think this is going to be a game where he comes out and is pretty strong. And Dak, I love you. I need more than 6 points this week.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what. So Zeke Elliott has obviously been in the league for, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years now.
Mm.
In the past 3 years, or in 7 total years, I'm going to try and remember this correctly. I'm probably going to get it wrong. Shout out to Ray Garvin and Jordan Richards at Wake Up. They do a great morning show on Twitter every single day. They talked a little bit about this the other day. Ray, big Dallas Cowboys fan. If I'm remembering correctly, in the 7 years that Zeke has been in the NFL, he has like 7 runs over, it's like 50 yards or something like that. Tony Pollard has 10 in the last 3 years he's been in the NFL. He's a more explosive running back. I still think Zeke's the guy, and I do expect him to have a good game this week. I don't think Tony Pollard's going away, though, and that sucks for anybody who rosters Zeke.
I don't think Tony Pollard even has to go away. We've seen all over the place there's room for both, especially with Michael Gallup on the shelf. You know, mixing in Tony Pollard, would you rather throw it to one of your lumbering tight ends or Tony Pollard? I mean, I think there's room for both. I just don't think it's necessarily there's been a big movement that Zeke's done. I know based on the usage and what seemed to be the game plan that I'm deducing that after 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Zeke's not done yet. He's getting there. He's not done yet. But I personally am a little worried about the usage with Pollard because I have drafted him and even traded for him in a couple places. I was expecting a big year out of him because I really thought getting Dak back, we were going to unlock that Zeke we had last year. They don't seem to be going away from Tony as much as I hoped they would. That's kind of my biggest fear. And go ahead.
I was going to say, if you watched Hard Knocks, though, the two BFFs on that team is Dak and Ezekiel Elliott, and that's what also makes me think after a couple weeks of hearing those things that he's going to want to help his friend.
I hope so. I mean, the biggest thing that worries me, and I should have listened, they said it all year long, was they were going to manage Zeke for the playoffs. They wanted to make a playoff run, and they wanted to have him healthy for the playoffs. So maybe we should have paid more attention to that. As much as I like Hurts, and I think this is going to be a close game, I'm going to take them boys. I don't see how the Eagles come back. I hope they do, and I hope I'm wrong on this one, but I'm going to take the Cowboys.
The Cowboys' path to a berth in the Super Bowl began with a small step of a win in Los Angeles last week and continues with a double-digit beatdown of Nick Sirianni and his Beat Dallas bullshit t-shirt this week.
Ooh, all in on your love for the Dallas Cowboys. All right, so
Look, it's way too early to abandon your Super Bowl picks.
That's true.
Way too early.
That will do it for us today. Obviously, good luck to all of you and any of the matchups you have this weekend. I hope you guys enjoy the games on Sunday. Matt, Dennis, and myself will be back on Monday to recap all of the action from Sunday, talk any breaking news, injuries as we work our way to the Monday Night Football game between these said Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia
unless the
Eagles.
Jets pull the upset, and then I will be having a mental health day on Monday.
You know, I understand because I'm pretty sure the Browns are going to lose this weekend. So until Monday, we'll talk to you guys.
Dennis is on his own.